Ahmed. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for joining in. It's a surprise I'm uploading. I actually have one of my best friends here doing a deck profile. He's the LCS champion, Zach Stone. But I want him to introduce himself. Tell him. I want him to explain what he played and why he played it. So, Zach, it's all yours. Go ahead.
What's up? What's up, YouTube? This is Zach Stone here, your boy. Um, I wrote a book actually, and it's going to be publicized soon, but it's How to Beat Combo 101. And it's starring Alistair the Invoker. So I played Invoke, Dogma Invoke. I really thought the deck was like good for this type of like event or this meta because since there is no real Yu-Gi-Oh going on, we looked for the online to kind of tell us what's good and what's not. And everyone was hyping up the Dragon deck and the Infernoble deck. And I like combo decks. I played combo decks plenty of times, but I knew that these combo decks are like brittle. So like they're almost glass cannons, and I didn't want to play like a deck. It's like a glass cannon deck for like an online tournament with a lot of people that play a lot. Like these are good players that are going to be in this tournament. And I felt very comfortable with Dogma Invoke because I knew Alistair by itself was like already an answer. So my opponent had to either answer with a hand trap or they're going to have to answer the Macabre on the next turn. And that only takes one card. And so every other card you draw is just going to either help facilitate your game plan to beat your opponent, or you're just going to like stop them from playing and eventually you'll win over advantage. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I went with this deck. And yeah, I
Yeah.
got first. What can I say?
Yeah, well, congratulations. So it's just breaking boards, getting plus ones an advantage, and then just stopping your opponent from playing. Right, real simple, back to basics Yu-Gi-Oh. Right.
Very simple in a nutshell. I definitely said monsters beat traps, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I went for today.
All
But
right. Per-
yeah,
okay, perfect. So if you want to go ahead, just name off your monsters. Let's just go through the list. See what exactly you're playing.
got it. Yeah. So there's three Ecclesia, two Fleur de Lis, and one Maximus. Um, for at least 2 or 3 weeks before this event, I did not have Maximus in my deck at all, not even in the side deck.
Mm-hmm.
I was, worried that people would prepare for it and have cards in their extra deck that just, generate advantage. And as much as this card is like almost an auto win against combo decks, it's very like high risk, high reward. And having one copy in your deck, I felt was worth it. You didn't need to main three since the card is very searchable with Nadir and Ecclesia. And also resolving the Schism to summon Winda is game against combo. You don't even need Macabre. So
Mm-hmm.
just having the access is all you really need. Two Fleur de Lis because by itself it doesn't do anything. You need to have Ecclesia or Maximus on the field to get its effect to resolve to negate something. It's just a beater for the most part. Like a lot of times going second, it's how you crack boards, or it's literally how you just attack for game.
Mm-hmm.
But he just acts as a pseudo hand trap. He doesn't target, which is very good against like cards like Dragoon and other things. So playing two was, in my opinion, perfect. And I don't think you play a Dogma deck with anything less than three Ecclesia.
Mm-hmm. All right, awesome. And then the rest of the monsters.
Yeah, three Alistair because we are playing the Invoked strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Self-explanatory. And I went with three Ash Blossom just because it's the only hand trap that like prevents your opponent from like drawing cards.
Okay.
And even against like not combo decks, they still play cards like Desires or even like Tactics if they want to draw two in that case. So you just want to be able to have like an answer to everything, and it was the more flexible of like monster hand trap.
Okay, that's awesome, and something that we've discussed before because I've talked to you a lot about this deck. You don't actually play that many real hand traps. Three Ash is very generic, but a lot of people they like playing Gamma. They like playing even Ogre. Droll's been really popular lately, and especially Nibiru. How come you kind of strayed away from playing a lot of hand traps?
The one main reason, like better reason to say than anything else, is because of triple tactic
Mm-hmm.
talent. Combo decks were just cramming three of that into their list and not even like cutting cards for it. And I understand why the card by itself is just like Pot of Greed in a
Mm-hmm.
nutshell. So I wanted my opponent like not to be able to like have a live tactics Imperm was really strong. Like there was a couple of games where I imperm somebody, and it's throughout the game they could never activate talent, which was like insane. Um, and I was playing a lot of hand traps like a couple weeks before, but throughout my testing, every combo deck was either had the ability to play through the hand trap, and it didn't matter anyway, or I'm not going to be able to play like stick to my game plan because there are so many cards in here you want to draw, like starter cards, that playing anything else could just help prevent that. And I maximize the amount of starters in my deck um, throughout the rest of the list, including spells and traps. So cutting those hand traps were the only thing that made sense. I couldn't cut any other engine cards. If like I was left with no choice but to cut the hand traps or just to play the hand traps and no real traps.
So you really value like consistency over just like um, overpowering your opponent, just being able to play every game, right?
Basically, yes, because these combo decks, if they have the nuts, they have the nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Granted, but if they don't have the nuts, one hand trap can just stop them completely. And even if I don't have the hand trap, as long as I don't have multiples of like a single card, I really believe and I feel more comfortable in breaking their board than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Smoke grenade is the only problem because they literally get to rip cards out of your hand and look at your hand too. Um, that was the only reason why I was worried. Like the only thing I was worried about was smoke grenade going into this event. Other than that, the combo decks didn't really scare me.
Okay, perfect. And go ahead, just the rest of the spells, I guess.
Yeah, so just terraforming and upstart. So there is like some conversation into not even cutting these cards, but just like we side them out because Droll is popular again, and that's like it's not even a hand trap that can stop you. It just does depend on your hand, but people always say that if you Droll them on a meltdown, they don't get invocation. So those cards were sided out quite often when I did anticipate a Droll from my opponent, but three meltdown, three nadir, three invocation. I felt was very standard. I played desires. The card is literally says draw two cards,
Plus one,
and
plus one.
you play a bunch of three ofs. Like you're not going to banish. Like there's only like two cards where if you banish them, you're like worried, and that's Maximus and Schism. But if you're resolving desires, you're probably in a better spot.
Mm-hmm.
And triple tactic talents. That card is I don't know why the card exists, but I'm playing three of it. And one, it allows you to play the game and punish your opponent for trying to stop you. Two, it allows you to break boards because Change of Heart is insane. It doesn't target, so you can take Dragoon, I was really scared of going into this event, and I saw nobody playing like Dragoon decks. No one summoned Dragoon against me. Um, and I wanted like to have like a clean answer to Dragoon without having to like waste extra cards. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wanted them to negate something, then I can take it and kill them with like Ecclesia, Fleur de Lis, and Dragoon because it's at 4K.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a simple like 1-2 punch against those kind of decks, and that's why I really felt like Talent was the best card to play. And Called by the Grave is at one, so we're gonna play it.
Yeah, so I noticed you played either three of everything or one of everything. It was really cool, especially your Call by the Grave. It helped you win in top four. I was literally screaming when your opponent activated draw and you called by, and then you just popped off. Besides that, is there like any spells that was definitely your favorite, or is like the key linchpin of your deck?
The Deer Servant is like an FTK. Your opponent has to answer it like most of the time. Um, if you have like if your hand is all monsters and you draw a deer, you can probably just kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And going first, the deer sets up Winda by itself. So I mean, I wanted to play this card, and I felt that this card really carried me because like it's just ridiculous. Like the amount of advantage you get from the Deer Servant is crazy. Um, so yeah, for sure that card and Invocation. Let's be some macabre.
All right, awesome, awesome. And then go ahead, just your traps. I guess that's the final part of the deck right here.
Yes, the 10 traps consist of three impermanence, three punishment, 2 Ice Dragon's Prison, 1 Trap Trick, and a Shadal's Schism. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna straight up say Punishment is a starter card, and playing 4 copies of it is better than playing 3. And I went with the Trap Trick also because of the flexibility with Ice Dragon's Prison. That card is nuts. It's also just single-handedly like beats Dinosaur. They have no answer to it once they go into the battle phase or once they leave their main phase. They have no answer to it. And against combo decks, if you're breaking their board, and there are times where you're breaking their board and you can't kill every monster, that's like the last card that finished them off, right? And plus, it even removes a card from their graveyard, which can be really important too for like let them be able to play. Like, because the dragon deck, you break their board, they can still kill you on the following turn. So Ice Dragon's Prison literally stops them from like pushing like to the like their like OTK board.
Okay. So I noticed again, you ended up cutting hand traps and you play a lot of traps. Do you think that the increased traps basically helped you get to basically first place? Because I really feel like your list is very different from other Dogmatica deck lists.
Um, so I don't know if that is what allowed me to win. I There is a lot of other variables to why I believe I won. But most definitely, the traps helped my deck combat against the rogue decks because I know the matchup between the combo decks. Like it's like simple as simple can be. Like going first is very it's very dependent on going first. But I built my deck to be able to win if I go second. And if I don't have like a playable card, if I somehow don't draw one of my like 16 or 17 starters, and even then there's still other cards that I can play. I just want to be able to have something to like, follow up on. Like a punishment can still get you started. And Ice Dragon's Prison can stop your opponent completely from playing the game. So I just wanted like high impact cards, and increasing the amount of traps I played gave me a better edge against any Eldritch deck, which I played against none throughout the tournament, being able to negate any trap with Makaba by having more traps in my deck to discard.
Okay, awesome, awesome. All right, so go ahead. Just I guess let's go through side and extra, and we can go through the rest of this deck profile.
Yeah, no worries. I'll just start off with the extra deck first. 2 Makaba and 1, I always butcher the name, but Agudadis, or yeah,
Good
I'll
daddy,
butcher
baby.
Daddy, baby. So I didn't want to play the Purgatrio. It, as much as it has came up, like having the 4th monster and also having Purgatrio, you want 2 Makaba. Like you just want 2 Makaba no matter what. Like the first one doesn't always get you there, and having 2 in your extra deck gives you like so much more like playability. In the finals, it's how I won, or I believe it was top 4. It's how I won the last turn by having 2 Makabas and just OTKing my opponent. And the other invoked monster is like very it's like more utility purpose, plus it's also like it's a way to go for game, because the card pops something when it's summoned, and if you have meltdown on your field, they can't respond to that, and that's very good to break like to kill a Boro Savage that hasn't used its negate, because then they're not able to negate anything, and you're able to blow it off the field. And if I've used 3 fusions, most of the time, if I'm not able to win the game after that, I wasn't going to win the game with a 4th fusion. Like my opponent has just had like more advantage than me, or their monster is just stronger, and Purgatrio wouldn't have been able to kill it anyway. So I didn't miss it. It didn't really come up, and I'm glad with my decision of just the 3 invoked fusions. On to the rest of them, I played 2 Natis and the Titanic Lad and the Fossil Warrior. So all those cards are just like Punishment, Nadir Servant, Maximus, like advantage cards, I
Yeah.
would say. The flexibility to have the Fossil Warrior and the Natis is so you can pop 2 cards, like 2 monsters if you want to, with Maximus, being able to send 2 different cards that do the same thing. Um, and I have to shout out my boy Tommy Williams for convincing me to play the second Natis over the Wind Pegasus. It did come up a lot more. Having the fusion to banish for the Algodatis also came up, and having a light monster came up too. So I
Mhm.
definitely want to give him a shout out for, convincing me to put in the second Natis. We only played one Titanic Lad. You don't need to resolve two of this card. You're doing it your first turn to just get the rest of your pieces in your hand, add Fleur de Lis, have Ecclesia for your next turn, or you're sending it on your opponent's turn because you need to get your Dogmatic engine started. You either didn't draw Ecclesia or Nadir, but you have a punishment. So that helps you get your engine started. And you never needed the second one because if at all it did come up where you needed another one, Omega can put it back. And Omega has been like my like favorite card in the
Mhm.
extra deck because it allows you to like just like play the game when you don't not supposed to. Like I've double desired before and I just don't have anything, but Omega puts my cards back in the deck and I can just search them and just like kind of create my own free advantage with punishment.
Mhm.
So we did not need a second one. The Fossil Warrior again was just very good to send off Nadir to add like Ecclesia or Max and to pop a monster. And since you don't need to pop the immediately when it's sent, you can wait. It's really good too to like play through stuff and see what your opponent does. And like, let's say they have a trap or something that summons something in the main phase two, you can pop it later. So it's very good in that sense too.
Mhm.
Um, the last of the extra deck monsters were the three Shadal monsters that we play just for the Schism.
Mhm.
You don't summon Construct. You rarely do if it ever comes up. And Apcapone is the one that adds the trap. So it's all for Winda. Winda has the word win in its name.
It's FTK. Like,
So literally the Deer Servant is an FTK.
yeah.
That's why I say that all the time.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, combo decks just don't have an answer to it. The trap even has another ability to send like the same attribute. So sending like dark monsters like against the dragon deck can be like really clean.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, combo decks don't have an answer to this card. It's just you win game one
Yeah.
if your max solves straight up. And then Omega, as I said before, it's very much utility purposed. I don't play Gamma at
Mhm.
all. So synchro summoning him was just, I don't believe, happening outside of like talents and other shenanigans.
Yeah.
So having him in the extra deck is just a utility for like punishment in the deer, putting cards back. Even putting your opponent's cards back is pretty cool too against like Eldritch and sometimes Dragon Link. Like you can cut them off from cards in their graveyard. So I liked it a lot. The last cards are just, I believe, standard.
Yeah.
Even the BLS link, I believe these Dogmatica Invoke players should have it in their extra deck. It's just like an answer to like the most random cards, and some decks like automatically lose when you summon him. And if Maximus ever is like bad in a matchup, like they have cards like you don't want to like send, you don't ever want to send cards that like give them like plus ones and stuff. And if you know your opponent is playing like a deck with like Herald in it and they're playing rituals, you could just avoid that game plan, summon Maximus, and just link summon into him if you need like a big boss monster.
All right, cool, cool, cool. All right. So you said Winda has the name Win in it. So I'm assuming that's definitely like the you're basically one of your favorite cards that you've played in this tournament. Uh, was there any other highlights in your extra deck besides that?
Well, the first sentence in my book, Winda has the the name Win in it.
Yeah.
That's actually the first sentence. So
Okay.
so keep your eyes out.
There you
But
go.
for sure, I would say if like MVP card had to have been just Makaba. I summon Makaba too often. The reason why I thought this deck was really good is because I could summon Makaba, set a bunch of back row, and people were playing or main decking Dark Ruler no more. So Dark Ruler was a one for one, just negating Makaba, and they had
Mm-hmm.
to deal with every other card I had at my disposal.
Mm-hmm.
It was just going to be hand traps and back row. Dark Ruler was just a one for one. I didn't want to play like a combo deck where Dark Ruler turns off my whole board and never did
Yeah.
everything.
No, yeah, it definitely makes sense. So let's go ahead finish up with the side deck. Just go ahead, rattle them off.
Yeah, no, it's two Maximus, two Ogre, two Droll, one Pank, three Cosmic, three Dark Ruler, no more, one Duster, and one Reboot. Um, I wasn't happy with my side deck. I definitely would change some choices for sure. Um, MVP card in my side deck had to be Droll. I think Droll should be at three in my side deck.
Yeah.
As much as the talk between like is Droll the hand trap to play, I don't know if it is or isn't,
Mm-hmm.
but for what my deck does, I want to draw them because they're not going to be able to answer my cards without going through their deck. Like they're not going to just draw a hand that can stop me from playing the game completely.
Mm-hmm.
Like they need to get into their deck. They need to search cards. They need to add cards. And if they can't do that, then I believe if I have a playable hand, I'm going to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know if siding two Maximuses was right. Maybe just having one more in the side deck would have been enough, and I would have had more flexibility. Ogre is going to be removed from my side deck completely. I did not want, didn't even side it in, and it should have just honestly been Nibiru.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe if I were to change my deck list, it would be removing a Maximus, removing the ogres, and putting in two Nibirus in the third role.
Mm-hmm.
I just would like more of those hand traps against combo because as much as I wanted to stay away from putting a bunch of hand traps in my main deck, I knew like fundamentally that's how we beat combo is by hand trapping them and having hand traps in my like deck somewhere. Like I need to have a good amount of hand traps somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I would make those changes if I were to do this all over again.
Mm-hmm.
The three cosmic, it was mostly for Eldritch. I didn't know how well represented it would be or not. It could have these cards could have been lightning storms and it would have been just a lot better. Just
Mm-hmm.
having mass removal and the option to destroy all opponents' monsters is pretty nice. But with three Dark Ruler no more, I didn't feel like that was necessary. And now that Duster is a card in the TCG, I just felt better having like chainable, one for one removal. And at the end of the day, like if I can just like get all my opponent's cards off the field, even if it's like one by one, I'll eventually win the game because my deck is just better at one for oneing than my opponents for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, reboot and Duster and Pank are all at one.
Definitely makes sense. You either play three of everything or one of everything. So that was a great deck profile, Zach. I really appreciate you, especially. Congratulations for winning. Appreciate everyone watching
Thank you,
here.
thank you.
Yeah, of course, man. You're super well deserved. You're one of my best friends, and I love seeing my friends do really well on these any type of tournament. I really appreciate anybody watching this because I know this was a slobber knocker of a deck profile, but I'm glad it's super in depth. So Zach, I just want to say, do you have any shout outs, anything you want to mention? I know we both want to shout out Luxury Games. Thanks again for doing another great tournament.
Yes,
I love watching this
Hani
stuff.
ran an excellent tournament as
No,
always.
for
Shout
sure.
outs to Hani.
So yeah.
Um, I was gonna say shout outs to the group chat. Take notes. Shout outs to Cameron Neal. He has been like my number one supporter and really believed in me that I can win this event. So thank you, Cameron. Um, and also shout outs to my homie Trinell. Shout outs to Desi. They're my friends that I actually play with, like, when I can during these times. So thank you to them for keeping me in the loop. And shout out to Duel Masters Discord. That is my
Hey.
home. That is where I dwell. But yeah, big shout outs to Tommy Williams as well for, kind of like discussing theory with me on this deck. We didn't build the deck together. He played a different list, but we both believe that Dogma Invoke was like the best deck to play. So shout outs to him. Shout out to my sponsor Tim. And if I'm forgetting anybody, I do apologize. It's been, quite an interesting weekend. And if I did miss you guys, just let me know. I'll make sure to get you guys in the next one.
All right. Well, thanks again, Zach. Have a great day. Congrats again, and peace out. Signing off.